You know, what we're uncovering here on this program is complex. And it takes a lot of our day just to figure out how to explain this to you, and it's complex by design. You know, it's the vast left-wing conspiracy. The Apollo Alliance combines environmental policy, the green movement, with labor and social justice. Why is that troubling? Maybe it's the guy behind the curtain making it all happen. He's a former black nationalist and self-professed communist. Here is Phil Kerpen. He is the Director for Policy for Americans for Prosperity. Phil, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Glenn. How are you?
Good. Tell me a little bit about Apollo and these. I have Acorn and the Black Farmers and the Sierra Club and Greenpeace and AFL-CIO and SEIU. Why are these three categories? How are they tied to Apollo?
Well, the Apollo Alliance is designed to bring together the elements of organized labor with the community organizers, with the green groups, the environmental groups, and to access all of the big foundation money that's been supportive of those causes in the past. So it's kind of Van Jones, who you mentioned, the self-described communist who's now green job czar. He described the Apollo Alliance mission as sort of a grand unified field theory for progressive left causes. It ties all these things together.
And Apollo is named Apollo. Do you know why it's named Apollo?
Yeah, they really admire the Apollo mission, the moonshot mission, and they think that we need a similar centrally planned, organized, massive mobilization to reorder society and take control of energy and their various other objectives. So they admire that. They want to like moonshot.
Right, and I saw on their website, and I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like massive and fast. They wanted something like the moonshot that could happen and just be launched quickly. Okay, so Van Jones, he is a self-proclaimed communist. He is one of the founding members of Apollo, right?
That's right, of the National Apollo, yeah.
Okay. And then we have Wade Rathke. Wade Rathke, who is the founder of Acorn. He was on the board of directors, if I'm not mistaken, of the institution that is funding and paying for Apollo, right?
Yeah, he was until this year on the board of the Tides Foundation and of the Tides Center, which are the parent organization that hosts the Apollo Alliance.
Okay, so Wade Rathke, Acorn, Tides Center, they decide that they're going to fund and create Apollo. One of the founders is the guy who went to jail. This is during the Rodney King thing. He went to jail, and he was just a black nationalist. He came out a communist, and he also then started looking into the green movement, and he's the guy who said, hey, if we tie labor and Acorn and the Greenpeace together, we've got a super powerful group, Apollo. Is it true Apollo helped design the stimulus package?
They did. They put out a draft stimulus bill last year in 2008. It included almost everything that ended up being in the final stimulus bill. Harry Reid has thanked them for helping design the final stimulus package that was enacted into law. And they brag on their website that they helped design this thing and push it through.
Okay. SEIU, this is the labor group that they're the ones pushing through health care. This is Acorn/SEIU. Their vice president is on the board of directors of Apollo, correct?
Yeah, Gerlin Hudson, the vice president of the SEIU, is on the Apollo board of directors.
Okay. Can you tell me where John Podesta fits into all of this?
John Podesta is also on the Apollo board. He, of course, is also the president of the Center for American Progress, which sends out the daily marching orders, the talking points for the left side of the blogs and the online activists and those organizers out in the street, the Acorn and the SEIU folks. They get their daily talking points from that Center for American Progress email.
Okay. America, I'd just like to ask you, Barack Obama keeps trying to separate himself from all of these organizations. He's telling us, he's giving speeches, and he's telling, I'm one of you guys, I really am one of you. But then these organizations, he'll always distance himself over and over and over again from the individuals. But let me ask you this, John Podesta, Van Jones, who is now his green job czar, an avowed communist, we've got the SEIU, who's in his office once a week talking about labor. They're the ones that were negotiating with all of the healthcare industry. He's in Obama's office all the time. Wade Rathke, former founder of Acorn. It all ties to the Tide Center, but who's really at the top of all of this? Who's the one that's trying to stay away from all of it and saying, I have nothing to do with it? Obama. But if you look at what Apollo, social, see if these sound familiar, like maybe, I don't know, the way we're going to transform America. Social justice, the Green Movement, and labor unions. Maybe it's just me, Phil. Can you talk me out of the crazy tree here and saying this is exactly what Barack Obama stands for, and these are his soldiers?
Well, look, there are a lot of connections here that make it look like that's certainly the case. Of course, we've got John Holdren, the science czar, who's also tied up with a lot of these folks. We've got Jason Grummett, who was the chief advisor for energy on the Obama campaign, who's also on the board of John Holdren's group, the National Energy Commission, which is also tied in with these folks. I think that if you look at Obama's past, he was an organizer for Acorn. He was actually their chief national trainer. You look at all of the organizations that are actually doing the footwork to push through all the elements of the Obama agenda, and it's pretty clear that he's part and parcel of these radical movements. He really can't separate himself from them, in my view.
I don't know how you can put self-acclaimed communists as a czar and claim that you're not part of that. I don't know how you can surround yourself with radicals and say that you have nothing to do with that. This man is a radical. Please talk me out of the crazy tree, America. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You know, I tell you, it's this kind of stuff is the reason why Common Sense has now been the #1 book in America on both USA Today and New York Times in all categories, all genres. It is a bestseller now for, I think, 5 weeks in a row. And the reason why is because people are trying to figure out what's going on. This book makes the case of what the weasels in Washington have done, how they have put us on the brink of absolute disaster. But I'll tell you something. I'm going to write a second book because I'm going to learn from these people, and we are going to take it apart as long as we can. America, you need to learn this system. You need to know about community organizers. You need to know what we're being transformed into so we can work together and bring our country back to where it's supposed to be, the way our founders intended it. Back in